This video will cover how to complete the motor housing. So when we take a look at our file here, let's go ahead and make it large. The first things that you want to take a look at is we have this wall thickness of 0.25. And what that means is if you look at this component here, it is a shelled feature around our component. And you can also tell that because of all these hidden lines that we have here. You also can tell that the circular hole here is actually not on the angular piece. So it's not an angled, it's not, the hole does not come straight through this piece here. It is actually drilled. Imagine if this was a full piece straight on here, okay? And then the hole does not go all the way through. So you need to keep that aware when you're creating this part. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we'll start a 2D sketch, and this is in inches. So we started an inch file. And I think it's probably going to be best to create the front feature here and then just do our extrusion. And again, I'm going to leave off the hole because we want the hole to be cut straight through, or well, we can put the hole on, but we'll do it as a separate extrusion is basically what I'm saying. So let's create our XY plane. And then let's go ahead and start our commands here. So we can go ahead and select our line. Looks like we have an 11-inch long line. Oh, not 11 foot long. There we go. Zoom out a little bit. And then it looks like I accidentally got off my line there. So let's go ahead and select. We have a, I believe, 1.5 inches in height here. Actually, we'll just go ahead and let's get back on here. There we go. We'll just go ahead and sketch it and then we'll put our dimensions on. And the reason I'm creating this box feature up above is because the hole or the cylindrical component does not start, you know, this actually comes up to here and that little kind of cut off there. Then we have this curved portion for our hole. So let's go ahead and start doing our constraints. So we have 1.5 inches for our height. Looks to me like our overall height is 3.5 from this feature here to our corner. There we go. Looks to me like we want to center this. Let's go ahead and center this around our origin. So we'll just take this and divide it by 2. Centering it here. And then let's just create it so it is right on our origin line here. So we'll make this 0. And then we also need to put the width of these 2 lines, parallel lines here, which our diameter, radius is 2.5, so our diameter is 5. Okay, excellent so far. We need to make these 2 equal. So it's centered. And then it looks like for the most part, we have created our completed piece, but now we just need to have our arced feature here and our hole. And we could do this by creating, you know, our center point and arc, or we can also do our circle command and use our midpoint here. And then again, we will go ahead and trim. So we don't need this part of the line. We actually need to get rid of this. And what it's saying is, well, if you do this, it's actually part of our constraint. Because if you remember, so this center of our hole or of our circle here, we utilize that horizontal line. So if we do that, we erase that line. Now see what we've got going on for our pieces here. So we can do a couple different things to make this still work. We can make these 2 equal, which now I can't increase the height of that one side, but I can still move my center point. So see how I can still move that center point up and down. Again, this is just one way to do this. We could just make this a 0, so it actually locks it in place there as well. But again, the main thing is you just want to make sure that you're fully constraining your part. And then our interior hole that's going through it to the inside of the housing is 2.5. Whoops, undo. Let's do our circle. Select my center, let me right click. And let's put that back to a diameter. So 2.5 here. All right, and then we can go ahead and finish our sketch. And you'll see I didn't do the 3D, the fillets yet on this side. I'll do those as a in the 3D model option here. So I'm going to go ahead and do my extrusion and select my piece here. I'm going to do it symmetrical. In this case, it doesn't necessarily matter, even though we're going to place the holes as using the 3D hole. So it doesn't really matter, but it's again just something I like to do. And what's our overall width here? Our overall width is 4. Remember, we're going to have that hole as well because we don't want the hole to go all the way through. So there's our feature. And then we're going to go ahead and do our hole, and we're going to make it come towards us. It's going to be a cut, and we want it to go through. So if you look at the back side, since it's coming towards us, it's not coming out the back there. Okay. And then we can go ahead and say okay. And then at this point, we're going to complete the rest of our physical features. So we can go ahead and do our fillet. And it looks to me like our fillets are a radius of 0.5. So we need to go ahead and set that. And then we can just select our edges. Looks like it's just these 2 edges here. And we haven't placed our holes. We could do it 2 different ways. We could do a 2D sketch from the top, or we can do our hole feature here. And I'm just going to select my first side. And here's my line, and it's 2 inches. So let's make sure we put our 2 inches here. And same thing, we want to select our other side and our line, and we're going to make it equal to this dimension over here. So they're the same. Our size is 1 inch, so those are already set. And then we need to make sure we're going to go to our sketch feature, and we want to take our 2 center circles need to be 8 inches. So let's do our dimensions from the center of both our holes here. And then from our edge here, that needs to be 1.5 inches to keep it centered in that component here. There we go. And then let's take a top view, make sure it grabbed, whoops, there we go. Zoom out, make sure it grabbed the correct line. And there we can see it's nice and set up correctly. So we can go back to our hole feature, and then you'll see our holes are already set. So we go ahead and select OK. At this point, the last thing we need to do is go ahead and do our shell. And here's where it could get a little confusing, is where to choose your shell from. Well, it's solid everywhere except for the bottom. So we're going to tip this upside down and select our bottom here. And so see how that goes ahead and creates that shell feature. But the last thing we need to do is remove the cylinder, because we do not want it to have a shelled feature. Let's go back so you can see these different views here. Let's go to our home view so you can see how that cylinder, we removed it. So when I say okay, that cylinder component is not there. And we can take a few moments and kind of scroll around. There's our motor housing right here. Notice the hole does not go all the way through. When we look at this from the front, we do have the circular feature here of our component. All right, and that's how you create the motor housing.